Hello and welcome to Eat Sleep Code, the official Telerik podcast. I'm your host, Ed Charbeneau, and with me is my wonderful co-host, John Bristowe. How are you doing, John?
Wonderful. That remains to be seen.
We'll start with some data breach stuff.
Yes.
You've got some articles here by Troy Hunt. Troy's
Yes.
somebody that's close to your neck of the woods. He's an Australian guy, right?
Actually, yeah, he lives where I live, which is in the Gold Coast of Australia. So,
Nice.
yeah, Troy has written extensively about this. Troy's the creator of Have I Been Pwned? He's heavily involved in the security space, to say the least. His blog posts tend to be quite long and very well written, and so he's recently wrote a couple of articles on the state of data breaches, which is near and dear to my heart because obviously, as the creator of Have I Been Pwned, one of the aspects of data breaches that comes involved is credential management and PII, or personally identifiable information. And so Troy is very good at lamenting about how bad our state of affairs is when it comes to data breaches. And so, if you're looking for a pretty exhaustive but well articulated series of blog posts, this would be it. So, the reason why I mention this is because a lot of companies out there don't have great policy when it comes to data breaches. And even further to that, when you see data breaches occur, they tend to follow the same script, which is kind of embarrassing, right? They're like, "Oh, we take your security seriously. We're investigating," and then that's about it. And you hope that nothing
Mhm.
else happens, if they say that at all. More often than not, these breaches are not disclosed. They are kind of swept under the rug, and they are, so they do a very poor job. And so Troy's main emphasis of trying to share not only what's happening out there, but to focus on what you can do. You can make data breaches actually ensure trust with a company. It may sound paradoxical, but by being more transparent with, especially on the data engineering side of things, like what actually happened, diagnosis, etc. The reason why things happen. It's like when you issue a CVE, or if you disclose like a problem that you found. By being transparent, you actually elevate trust in my mind, because you're taking it
Mhm.
seriously. It's when you sweep it under the rug that I have problems with it. So, anyways, Troy writes extensively about this, and obviously, he cares about it a great deal.
Yeah, there's an interesting take on it that I haven't ever thought about. So data breach victims are making it worse. So you're talking about like being transparent, reporting it, and then you get hit with a class action lawsuit because you did. So that doesn't help.
Well, I think part of it is also we have to have, yeah, you know, I don't think that there's the only perfect security out there is a disconnected server, and that's locked away. And even then, I'm sure Tom Cruise will find a way to break into the vault, so to speak. But the fact that we have connected servers and the internet and all this stuff, it's going to be hard to lock it down completely. So what that means is that you have to have a culture of, I guess, somewhat forgiveness, but also understanding in a sense. Like,
Yeah.
I
Like you
think
need to
that,
understand these things are going to happen. This is part of the cost of doing
yeah,
business when you,
yeah,
and by business I mean having internet.
yes.
It's
But I
like you're a
think
grown
also
up now.
it's there. Yeah, there's a number of things as well. Like, some people will look at it and say, "Oh, there's things that companies do that are bad, but there's things that users do that are bad as well. Like, they use the same credentials over and over again. They don't use a password manager. They don't use passkeys.
Yeah.
They don't use two-factor authentication. They don't use biometrics. They don't use, a lot of these things that have been around for a long time. And there's really no good reason not to use these things. Maybe it's just a lack of insight or such, but you know, I don't know any of my passwords. I use one password. I don't know any single. They're all auto generated, and they're like, oh, and if the website allows, I'll make them max length of like 100, sort of thing. So, and I use pass keys, and I use two-factor auth if I can, and so there's things that users need to do as well to help protect themselves. There's things that companies definitely need to do. I think Troy's arguing for, like, we collectively have to do better.
Yeah, like in here it says his example is the Australian government driver's license system was exposed, and people were asking for compensation for, and that's the thing. He doesn't know what. It's like they
Yeah.
just want money because they're like, oh, there was a data breach, my name was involved, pay me. And it's like, yeah, the argument is, well, you have to get a new driver's license every 5 years, and what do you want to be compensated for? The 5 minutes that you had to stand in line prorated over 5 years? Like, what's the damage? There has to be damages when you sue somebody. Like, what are the damages? So yeah, that's an interesting one because sometimes the damages can be a problem if it's something to do with leaking your social security here in the US. Like somebody could get a loan in your name, but you'd have to prove that damage has actually occurred before that's a problem.
Mm.
In other cases, it could be, it caused your software to have downtime, and that could have been impactful to your business and so on. So yeah, like it's a culture thing here in the States as well. It's like anytime anybody feels wronged and they're just like upset, they're like, you owe me money. And it's like, yeah, we don't pay you because you're upset. Like there has to be damages, folks.
Okay.
More data breaches. Data breaches
Yeah, it's
part
just
two.
part two, talking about the trilogy of players often involved with the law enforcement, the black hats, or white hats in this case, and then
Mhm.
obviously the lawyers. So you've got the people who are the hackers. I would argue that, we need them just as much as, anything.
Oh yeah,
Um, yeah. So especially white hats, you need folks who are
exactly.
constantly poking. And you need a company policy that won't act negatively towards them if they disclose. That often happens a lot. You get a disclosure notice, you then ignore it, or you try and shut it down, which is even worse. And then you
Yeah.
come back after the fact and you start doing really bad stuff. There's the
I
corporate
like the
victims,
whole like
obviously. Yeah.
bounty programs and whatnot.
Yeah, bug bounties and disclosures, and I'm huge advocates of those. So,
Yeah.
GitHub just published a blog post recently. They've been running their bug bounty for 10 years, and they've seen huge wins out of that. So, look, there's things that you can do. If you're a developer at a company today, you should be convincing your CTO or upper management, hey, we need to have a bug bounty. We need to put, because the cost of, imagine a disclosure, the cost that will cost us, the money that will cost us in terms of losing customers and trust and all that. If we have a bug bounty or a way of doing disclosures, think about the money that we could potentially save. It's like buying insurance. So, somewhat, but it's a good thing, I think.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna shift gears a little bit, and we'll use this as a good transition point. Uh, I found this one around the interwebs. I'm not a Linux user myself, but I've dabbled with it here and there. I thought this was kind of an interesting one. So this is a fork of the Atom editor. So that later turned into VS Code. And somebody's taken this and done some Rust with it and added GPU acceleration and released it as the Z code editor for Linux.
Hmm.
So if you're a Linux user, you want like a really nifty, high-end, high-performant IDE, maybe try Z out and see how it works. I know nothing about it. I just thought it looked kind of cool.
Hmm.
I mean, it's got AI, so
There you go.
why not, right?
Why not?
Um, Speaking
I wonder
of
why. Wonder what
tooling
they came up.
and
I wonder what the name
oh,
is
sorry.
reference to. Zed.
I don't know. Maybe it's just the Z editor and it's British or something.
Okay.
I have no idea. Uh, it just says it was. Oh, this is not a fork, by the way. I misread that. It is from the original author, uh, and it's been rebooted as Z. So it's a new thing. Speaking of tooling and Visual Studio, VS Code, and all that stuff, let's talk a little bit about Microsoft Stack things. We've got C Sharp 13. Explore the latest preview features. What do we
Yeah,
got coming in VS 13 or C Sharp 13, John?
lots of new stuff. So this is from Kathleen Dollard, who's a member of the team. She's been at Microsoft for a bit, and as you know, language features are always evolving. And you see these typically being announced by Anders Halsberg at some build event and such. But the latest features around C Sharp are interesting. You can check these out today. You can preview these through .NET 9, which is, I think, preview 6 right now. And you can enable this through your project file. So the project file is just your XML file that you can update there. You can submit the language version there, assuming you have .NET 9 installed preview. So some of the features include a new params collections. So the idea is that you can basically work with any type that can be constructed via a collection expression. And so they provide some code snippet examples there where you have a function called write names, and then you have a params collections named there. Basically allows you to find a function in line there for
String
writing out
or
names.
list,
Yep.
enumerable, array, spans, you name it. If it's a collection, we're good.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
Lock.
So
I
they
thought we had
have
lock.
also, yeah, lock, always important. I, lock is a good one to make
How's
sure that
this
you have
different from
reference
what we
for.
had? Because I thought we had this.
Yeah.
A
The one
new
that's
system
interesting is
authoring
the
lock.
hat operator. So the index operator, which is the hat symbol, allows you to indicate a position on a countable collection relative to the end of the collection. So that's kind of interesting. Oftentimes you have to calculate that through a length of, and then minus it, etc. So this basically shorthands that, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, this is one of those things I think JavaScript or Ruby
I think
has
it's Ruby.
already. Ruby.
Yeah, I think Ruby
Ruby
has
has,
this.
and I was trying to use in .NET and it wasn't working, and I was getting frustrated. I'm like, I know I've used this somewhere before.
Yeah,
It's not here though.
yeah.
So now it is.
Yep. So this should help clean up your algorithm code that you'd have to do for a sort or something like that, which is kind of nice. So if it's sort of like last in, last out, that thing, sort of thing. So
Escape
uh,
sequences for
yes.
dealing with
So knowing the escape key, there you go.
fancy characters. Partial properties?
Yeah, this one's interesting.
Like
So
partial
they're akin
methods?
to
That's an
partial
interesting one.
message in the sense that you can define part of the definition. So partial methods have been around for a while. Partial properties are much like the partial method declaration.
I can't say I've ever used this for anything. This is I'm confused what this does.
Excuse me.
How do you have a partial property? What does it do? Does it get merged as part of a partial class?
Well, it's used in the context of a source generator. So
Oh, okay, that makes
yeah,
more sense.
yeah.
All right.
So when
I
a
was like,
source
okay,
generator is
source generation. Gotcha.
yeah, so a source generator is a concept. I think it was introduced in .NET 7 or 8. This
Yeah,
idea that
something
you
like that.
can basically inject source as part of the runtime and utilizing the Roslyn language capabilities that are available. So in this instance, I think the second demo they show there, the second code snippet they show there, they're updating the regex dynamically.
Yeah, I think that's probably what threw me off. It's like, why were you regexing? Now we have another problem, right?
That's right. Now you have many problems.
Allows refs to structure types. So you can pass a structure as a reference. Yeah, by default, type parameters cannot be reference structure. So I guess that's a thing now. So yeah, there's a couple changes there. These are high or low level things. I don't see me using too many of these except for like the initializer,
Sure.
index initializer. Lock confuses me because I could have swore there was a thread lock already. I have to see what the difference is between that one and the old one.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Um, we're going to talk about something that is a little bit self-promotion, a little bit
Oh, good.
not. I was on the .NET Community stand-up a couple hours ago.
Ah,
So this
nice.
is the .NET MAUI Community stand-up. And one of the things that was nice, we went over the like preview and release notes and stuff for the latest versions of MAUI that are coming out in .NET 9. And part of the preview is a lightweight interop wrapper for things that aren't covered in the MAUI API. So say you have an API on an iOS device, an Android device that's not covered by the .NET stack already. Similar to Blazor and the JavaScript interop, you can like wrap this interop layer around whatever that API is and write some C# code, API interface for that, and then share that
Uh-huh.
with the public so you can see, NuGet packages springing up potentially for supporting device features that are not supported natively with MAUI. So that's going to be a game changer. Um, and then I got a few minutes to talk about something that I like to do with MAUI. So if you want to take your MAUI app, John, and put it in virtual reality,
No.
so
Sorry,
you
did I
can
say that out loud?
so you can do stuff like this. You can take your app and load them up in virtual space and not have a monitor to work with. Just use the headset. It's a wonderful thing,
Yeah.
John. I had
No,
a
no, it isn't.
120-inch VR Visual Studio screen and a MAUI app running on a 9-foot tall monitor. So yeah,
God,
I
look
mean,
at
look,
you.
these are
Look
giant
at you.
screens floating in space. Giant screens. Come on, John.
Uh,
Maddie's face
why?
says it all right there.
Yeah.
It's like, what is
Why? Why?
happening?
Why are we doing this?
What am I? What have I gotten myself into? Sooner I can get off the show, the better.
Is
No,
it
actually,
easy
they
to
were all
do?
fantastic. Very nice
Is
people.
it easy to do, Ed?
It is dead simple to do. Is the
All right.
problem? It is too simple. So if you watch the show, you'll hear me talk about it. I'm in Visual Studio one day. I've got my Quest basically just charging off my laptop, and I was doing some screen sharing with it and stuff. And I was in Visual Studio, and I happened to be in a MAUI app, and I saw
Oh yeah.
one of the deploy targets come up as my Quest, and I'm like, okay, go ahead and deploy to it and see what happens. Like this isn't gonna work, right? It's gonna throw errors, but it's I'm a dork. I gotta press the button and see if it works, right? So I press the
You don't
button.
need a headset to admit that.
And a few
Just saying.
seconds later, there's a MAUI app running in my Quest. And I'm like, holy cow, this actually works without any intervention on my part. And like the next week after, I was actually at a conference with Maddie, who was working on the .NET MAUI team. And I was like, hey, Maddie, do you know you could run these in the Quest? And she's like, you can do what? She's like, no, I did not know that. So this isn't like a intentional thing. It's a side effect of the cross-platform capabilities of .NET MAUI. And it
There you go.
works. It just
Yep.
works. Like
Yep.
Apple trademark, it just works. So
Is that an
yeah,
Apple trademark?
I don't know. If they could, they would. So anyway, we'll
Listen, I
get into
think you meant
Apple in a
Sun
few minutes.
Microsystems or maybe Oracle, but there you go.
We'll get into Apple in a minute. We've got some Apple bashing to do later.
Sure.
Not that I take any joy at all in that, John. Of course I do, but that's on them. All right. So it's a little bit more Microsoft, and we'll move on. Not to sound like a bunch of Microsoft fanboys, talking about Microsoft, and we're going to jump over and beat Apple up. But hey, that's the show today. 5 things I learned about leadership from the death and rebirth of Microsoft.
Yeah. So Dare is a former longstanding Microsoft employee. He was there from 2002 to 2019. Basically, penned up this article entitled "5 Things I Learned About Leadership from the Death Rebirth of Microsoft." Goes into deep detail. He was there part of the time that I was there. I was there from 2005 to roughly 2011, during Balmer, Gates, Balmer, then Satya. And so I think that, some of it's interesting to see that transition and kind of what happened during that time. So this is an article that, if you're looking for sort of the if you're in a higher up position, if you're one of the members of the leadership team at your company, this would be a good sort of breakfast coffee type article to read about some
Hmm.
of the things that Dare saw that were successful, some things that weren't successful, but basically articulating them. Lesson one: culture eats strategy for breakfast, which is certainly true. Strategy is one thing, but if without culture, it's nothing. Lesson two: forget strategy. Do what's best for the customer. Again, pushing strategy down. Strategy is great, but strategy often is formulated in a vacuum. I find better companies don't do it in a vacuum. They do a lot of customer testimonials and then formulate strategy from that. But oftentimes, putting the hat on as the customer is going to work best, and I think that that's part of the reason why I think he articulated that one. His third lesson is that sometimes you have to just cut your losses, which means sometimes you have to just kill products. Google does this quite well. There's actually a page that articulates this well, which we've
Yeah.
highlighted. And he goes into some examples there of things that Microsoft has done. Lesson four: every investment has an opportunity cost. That's certainly true if you're going to jump um, into those types of things, then you've got to be mindful of that. And then his fifth lesson is, at a software company, engineers are your most valuable resource. Listen to them. And I think you and I would both agree with that. You want to make sure that, because they're the ones I think who are spending a lot of time with the product day in, day out, suffering through it. And they're not going to obviously be the only voice you're going to listen to, but you
Hmm.
should definitely take them into account.
Yeah. That's this is one thing that I think your developer relations team is most helpful with if you have
Yeah.
one. And I've seen developer relations like expand and contract over the years. And I think we're in a contraction right now, in my opinion. And I think companies are missing out on important feedback and thought leadership that occurs in that bubble.
Yep.
So it'd be interesting to see if it expands again in a few years or next year or soon. It seems like it contracted a little while ago and it's due for an expansion again. My 2 cents.
Yes.
Speaking of being a developer advocate, it's time for a quick article from the Telerik blogs. This is also a .NET related thing, so I thought it was a nice mention here. This is a interesting read if you're doing any kind of upgrading of your .NET software. So we've got a WinForms versus .NET MAUI versus .NET 8. Like you're converting a legacy app. What direction do you choose to go in? Like, what do you pick for your next generation of this app? And this kind of outlines, what each platform offers and why you might want to transition from one to another, and kind of gives you the pros and cons over each one. So I thought that's a good read. You can find that up on blogs.telerik.com. It's at the top of the list this week.
Very nice.
What are you?
WinForms
What's
is
your two
that sort
cents
of
here, John?
Yeah, WinForms is that cockroach technology. It cannot be killed. After the nuclear winter and the dust is settled, it would be one of the few remaining technologies available to us for us to use.
Well, WinForms is still around. Folks are still on .NET Framework WinForms,
Yep.
though, and
Yep.
that's mentioned here as well. .NET Framework 4X is still in maintenance. They're not, releasing any new .NET full framework releases. There's not going to be a .NET full framework 5. So you're on 4X until it dies, basically. So they've given developers quite a while to transition off of it and still haven't pulled the plug on that platform, as well as WebForms. That is still
Well,
alive and kicking.
yeah, I
And
mean, to be clear, it's still also available in .NET 8, sort of thing, so you can continue to use it. It's not just a framework thing.
WebForms is not a .NET thing.
No, WinForms. WinForms.
WinForms is.
Yeah.
Yeah, WebForms is not. So yeah,
They'll never
we'll
kill
have to see.
WinForms. Like I said,
Yeah.
it's a cockroach technology. You can't kill it.
So yeah, that's a good guide here to get you started in the right path towards migrating your app somewhere.
Yeah, and those things are important. You want to take a look at the long-term viability, because if you're going to make the investment of converting your legacy app, one of the things you have to be cognizant of is the technology I'm picking for the future, is it going to survive in the long term, right? So if I'm going
Nice
to make a
segue, John.
one-up investment, yeah, there you go. Exactly. Will this live on? I'll let you say it. You
Nice
go.
segue, John.
I
Apple
knew I was
Vision
right.
Pro
I was
US
right.
sales are all but dead, market analysts say. And I've got another one. We can talk about them at the same time. They're one and the same articles. Forbes magazine writes, Apple Vision Pro is amazing, but nobody wants one.
No one outside the valley.
This is basically what I said. This whole title right here is basically what I said the day I saw it debut. I had high hopes for this thing. I was like, if anybody's got the right pieces on the chessboard, it is Apple. And what did they do? They moved the king to whatever, I don't know chess analogies, but whatever would make the king get captured and fail miserably, they did that. Okay.
Silicon Valley problems require Silicon Valley solutions. This is a Silicon Valley solution. $3,500 US. No one is going to buy this. And
in a time where
that was my opinion when
record
I first saw this. I was
inflation
like,
and we're
yes.
talking about possible recessions and crowded job market, $3,500 for a tech device that has no ecosystem.
Yeah. None of this should be surprising. When at WWDC, you could hear it in the audience. All the developers, when they announced the price, was like, whoa, that was what. And the guy on stage was like, and we're selling it for $3,500. Like, he made it sound like it's a low price. And everyone on stage was like, what? Like, it's like we all collectively knew this was going to be a problem. So
this is
whatever.
the biggest fumble because of what I said. Like, they have the technology there, and they chose to showboat like the extreme ends of all of the tech instead of choosing what would have been a good product and making it accessible to people. They basically they bought the Lambo, right? And just showboated it in front of people. Like, that's what they basically did with this. It was a ridiculous device to be $3,500. Like, it's so out of touch, and people will try on the Apple side, try to defend it. And they're like, well, it's a desktop replacement. No, it's not. It doesn't have apps. It doesn't run anything. It doesn't have games. I was in a thread on Twitter the other day, like a third party, a non like just a startup third party manufacturer decided, well, there's no controllers for this thing, and they basically copied the Quest controllers and released those as Apple controllers. And I'm like, it's dead. That is dead on arrival for the 5 people that own a Quest. They're not gamers, Apple Vision Pro. They're not gamers anyway.
Sure you meant that?
And they're not. People aren't buying this for games. And then we learned anything from the Nintendo Power Glove, the Nintendo Track and Field Pad, the Microsoft Kinect, like all of these consoles that came out, and they released these third-party attachments for it.
Sure.
None of those things ever work. Why? Because software developers look at the market and they're like, all right, we've got the product with peripherals. We can build a game that 10 people own the peripheral can play, or all of the people that own the console can play. And they go for the biggest piece of the pie. And that's what's going to happen with the controllers that they made. Nobody's going to make anything for these third-party controllers because you don't know as a developer if there's a market for it or if they're, if they're compatible with whatever you're going to build. Nobody's going to do it. Same thing with the Quest and the Logitech pen that you write in the air with. Like for the 5 people that are going to own that, you're going to be stuck with the one app that got built as a demo for it. Like we don't learn. I love innovation, but we sure as hell repeat ourselves a lot.
I'll agree with you there. I think the thing about this is that we're a bit early, and I think it's partially due to our lack of understanding of what's intuitive, and partially also due to the fact that we still need massive leaps of innovation in battery storage technology. We need a user model that is far more intuitive than what we're trying to make. I mean, credit where credit's due. They're trying. The engineers are trying. There's gestures that are universal, that everyone can understand, that are intuitive, is not easy. Also, I think they're trying to create a platform here that is, it's going to be hard. It's going to be look how long it took for the desktop computer itself to take on. It took like 30, 40, 50 years, basically, until, in the early 80s when Apple introduced this thing, the desktop computer. I mean, it was $5,000, right? It's the same sort of idea. It's like people are like, what? I'm not going to use this thing, just to organize my spreadsheets and my recipes. Now they're mainstream. It takes a long time for these to get adopted. But I think that the difference between the desktop and the headset is that the headset itself has to deal with physical reality, right? It has to deal with battery technology. You've also got folks who are, get susceptible to vertigo wearing these things. They get sweaty.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's like with a desktop computer, at least you can put it on the floor. Like if it weighs 10,000 pounds, who cares? Because you can put it on the floor. But with this thing, it's got to be light. It's got to have a long battery life. It's got to be intuitive. It's a hard problem space. Plus, you look like a dork wearing this thing. Like you look at photos of people wearing these things in their Teslas while on autopilot. Like they're just begging for jokes, right? Like we've shown this stuff again and again. How many examples do you need? This thing will not, you're not going to wear these things, So I think there's I'm not saying that it's not viable. That's not what I'm saying. I know that people have listened to me hate on this for a long time, but I just think it's far too early. And I think that it's going to be a long time until we have this. Now, when we have this, it's going to be they're going to be like glasses. They're going to be like this, and they're going to be almost imperceivable, or they'll be built into a contact lens, or not. We're just so far from that.
Yeah, we're definitely far from that. And then this is where the whole Apple debacle begins, though. Look at the price difference here. This $3,499. Pay attention to the per month price tag as well, because that's going to help you quantify this. $300 a month for 12 months. Okay, $300 a month for 12 months, or you can just pay twice that price. Twice the payments, 2 payments. And you've paid off your Quest 3 and you have money left over in the bank.
And you have a richer ecosystem.
And you have controllers that ship with the product. You don't have to buy separately and are supported by every piece of software on it. Is it as technically advanced? No. Does it have a better display? Slightly. That's about it. Like everything else, the Quest does better. What are you paying all of this money for? What are you spending $300 a month for the next 10 months for a little fruit logo on it? Just like they dropped the ball so hard on this. They could have come out competitive. If it was $1,000 and it didn't have a screen that you could show eyeballs on the front that nobody cares about, and it included controllers, like I would have been on board for the first time on an Apple product. I would have been like, oh, this is cool. Let me check this out. But for $3,500 just to get started. That's not with any accessories or anything else. That's ridiculous. Like, I don't care enough to check it out. I don't even want to demo it. Like, it's just so out of reach. Like, I can buy an entire gaming PC and a Quest and 5 games and still have money left over for the price
Yeah.
of this thing. It's just
Yeah.
so ridiculous. I could buy
Yeah.
another coffee roaster, John. I could buy another one, a better one
You know what's
for that kind of
you know
money.
what's upsetting about this is that I don't know if I can't say for certain, but I don't know if Apple will learn from this experience. You know what I mean? Like, I like Apple. I hope that they do well. I hope everyone does well,
I
but
don't think they're gonna. They got too much money.
uh,
Like,
you know,
look at their
like
stock
I
price.
want companies to be successful. We need more companies to be successful in the IT space. We need this. We need to push the platform forward. I hope they learn from this.
I mean, was there even a blip on the radar when they dropped the ball on this thing?
Well, I don't think stocks are reflective of whether they've learned. I mean, this is not an
They're
an affordable indicator.
they're up year
They're
to
not
date,
losing gallons
so
of money off this.
that's what I'm
But
saying. Their pockets are too deep to care. This was like an
okay.
people didn't like it. I mean, big deal. It's like ordering a cheeseburger at a McDonald's and you didn't like it and you're like, eh,
Yeah, I hear you. Look, I
that
like
was
the
a
stuff.
waste of a $5 bill.
Yeah,
All
look,
right.
I like the stuff that they're thinking about now. I love the fact that they're bringing AI to the device, or what they call Apple Intelligence, which is, they're still not learning. I think Apple has this. We're gonna call everyone a genius, and we're gonna call it Apple Intel. Like, it's that
Oh
sort
yeah,
of.
the marketing around all
Yeah,
the
that's the part that I could
stuff
do
that's
without. And all the
normal.
guys who are all the folks in
That's
the
gonna
front row of
never
the
end.
stage who are going woo, every time they announce something, I could do with all of that. Get rid of all of that and just get back to good, honest software development. That's what I want.
Have they ever done this though? Like ever since I can remember, like this is why I'm not an Apple user. It goes all the way back to 90, I don't know, 92 or something like that. I'm a kid, I'm building a computer, and I'm looking at hardware, and I have a friend that his dad works at Apple, and then like all my friends are using PCs, and I'm like, all right, if I build this PC, it's going to cost me X amount of dollars, and I'm looking at RAM, and I've got a catalog I'm looking through, and it's like a stick of whatever 4 megabytes of RAM was $100. The same 4 megabyte stick of RAM with an Apple logo on it is $400 for 4 megs of RAM. And I'm like, yeah, I think I'm building a PC. Like, this Apple thing ain't happening. It's ridiculous. Like, it's
Fair
literally
enough.
the same memory chip. It's literally the same exact memory chip. But one was Apple, one was not. And that was the only difference between those technically. And I chose to go with the cheaper one. It's just made sense.
All right, let's not keep like piling
Yeah,
on.
this
I think.
this is a
Sorry.
dead
Well, I
horse
use
with
a
an
Mac. I
Apple.
want Apple to be successful, but come on.
I don't use a Mac. I will never use a Mac. They're gonna have to
All
really
right.
step up their game and quit putting, like you said, like wrapping this BS bow around everything and calling it Retina and Lightning and dude, it's a USB cable. Just call it a USB cable.
Sure.
Like it's high definition. It's this industry standard thing. Just get over yourselves.
All
All
right.
right. So now, like now that all the Apple folks have left angrily, we can talk about AI. This is a story that hit twice here. We'll talk about this one first, I guess. I don't know if this is supposed to be enunciated as like TerifAI, but it's a quote, a terrifying AI chatbot that steals your voice while you talk to it. So I guess this is a generative AI thing that while you're talking to it, it uses your voice to train the AI model to sound like you.
Great.
So people are not too thrilled about this, I guess. I don't know if it bothers me or not. Like, I mean, I guess it could be a problem if somebody records your voice, then like uses it to make a phone call and impersonate you. That could be a problem. Um, this is just the future, in my opinion. Does it suck? Of course, but
Well, the reality
this is
is
where
like
we are.
coming full circle to Troy Hunt and security. I mean, people are using this
Yeah,
to spoof people, right? So
yeah,
you get those calls from like Microsoft security and your computer's been hacked and blah blah blah. Now what they're doing is they're playing out the nefarious folks, the bad actors out there are taking voice samples and generating voice that sounds like you through
yeah.
tools like this, for example.
So you could essentially be like, I could take your voice, John,
Sure,
and then find your mom's phone number
sure.
and then like call your mom
I'm
and
in
be like,
jail. I
"Hey,
need you
this
to
is
bail
your
me
son
out.
John.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I need
yeah,
money, right away, mom."
yeah.
And unless there's ways to like go about that. Like you could have a secure word or whatever.
Yes,
I
yes,
think that's where we're headed. It's
yep,
like, where did you go to school, or what was your
yes,
favorite food in the third grade?
yes.
But that TerifAI AI or whatever it's called is not the only one. This one was also in the news cycles. Microsoft's Val E2 can convincingly recreate human voices in just a few seconds of audio, and they said it is too dangerous to release to the public.
I've seen tools like this already. I mean, this is not anything special. I've seen tools like this already.
Yeah. So we're headed to a future where you can basically trust nothing that you see or hear. Is that, I mean,
I've
that's a
been there for
summary of
years.
it. I'm not trying to be doomsday. I'm just being honest. Like,
You're gonna live in a cabin in the woods.
yeah, there's already a member of the family who will go unnamed because I will get in very big amounts of trouble if I say it out loud, but who falls for the AI stuff all the time.
Oh, okay.
And they
That's
believe the
unfortunate.
AI thing they saw is real.
That's not. They can't help it. I mean, they're not aware. So you can't hold that against them. But for those of us who are like you and me, I'm gonna end up with a tinfoil hat at some point. So
And Marcus, I think it is in the chat room, is agreeing with me. So I like this person already. So thank you for that.
I like what I think. I like what I think a lot. More people should think like me.
I don't even know the context of it. I just see I can't agree more with Ed, and I don't know when that was mentioned. Like if it was during
I
this
think you're
AI
talking about
bit or during the
the
Apple
Apple
bit.
Vision. I think it was the Apple bit.
I really don't care. I agree with Marcus that they he or she agrees with me,
I'll just
and
create an AI
that's
bot for you, Ed. That's just gonna pants you full of compliments.
pats my own back.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't break your arm off patting your own back. And I need a segue for this one. I showed it too early. Hang on.
I was so impressed by this. The NHL draft was held in the Sphere, and it was awesome. Like even on TV, it looked amazing, and inside the Sphere, and outside, it's like cool too. Like planes fly over this thing, and they've got like a face, a caricature looking at the plane and stuff. It's kind of creepy that way, but it is insane. So this is a backyard. This is a behind the scenes or behind the music article.
I have to quickly point out the irony of the AMD Radeon advertising
Yeah, yeah.
around
Fair
the
enough.
the
Fair enough.
blatant spamming of this around. There's one, two, three, four ads
Oh,
being
come on. They're probably
spammed.
seeing the word GPU and that's why they're including it. Not
And
because they're
and we're going to
targeting
be
that exact
talking
article.
about the Nvidia
Yeah, yeah.
GPUs, the 150 of them that power the Sphere. So I guess they didn't release this technical information before, and they're just now. And I don't know if I mean, they call it
28
a
million
dystopian
watts.
sphere. Somebody that wrote this doesn't like the Sphere, but I thought it was an
I like the
interesting
Sphere. I think it's cool.
technical feat and
It is.
architectural feat. So I'm gonna roll with it and say
Do you
it's
know
cool
why I like the Sphere? Is because it works. That's why I
because
like
it
the
gets
Sphere.
around.
No, it's just it draws your attention. That's the
It
point.
is. You
It
see what I?
works.
Do you see what I did there?
What?
It gets around. It's a sphere.
Ed Charbeneau, ladies and gentlemen. Slow clap for Ed Charbeneau. Well done. Well done. No, it
Uh,
works. Look, you're in Vegas. Everything's trying to grab your attention. What grabs your attention the most? The sphere. It works. That's what it
yeah,
was
if it was
built
built
for.
anywhere else, it'd be weird. You'd be like, what?
You
But
know, I'm really
Vegas is just like,
disappointed.
oh, it's
I'm
Vegas.
re- I'm really disappointed they didn't try and go with the 1.28 gigawatts from Back to the Future reference. But 28 megawatts is sufficient, I guess. So,
I've seen this up close.
oh, you have.
Yeah, yeah, it's actually really cool. See if I can find it real quick without exposing too many
All your
personal
photos.
photos.
You've exposed everything. Why not just
Yeah,
share
there it
everything?
is. Yeah,
Hey, there you go.
that's what it looks like from the street. The
And they've got a
resolution
QR
on
code
there,
on it.
they do. Okay, maybe the dystopian thing is
Yeah,
finally
yeah, yeah.
clicking with me. But yeah, it's really cool close up and seeing it animate and everything. It's not a
Yeah,
still like photo like that. It's
I
actually
like it.
animating in real
I
time.
don't mind it. I think
Is
it's
pretty
new.
wild.
It's creative. I don't mind it. I think it's cool.
Yeah,
You're showing your
and
Twitch stream now.
and when the
There you go.
when the humans 10,000 years from now dig it up and try to figure out what god we were worshiping,
Sure. Yep.
that'll be interesting too. I wish I could be there for it.
Yep.
All right, that's all I've got, John.
I like that
I
one. That
thought
that
that was
last
cool.
article
It's
is good.
yeah.
As much as I trash VR, I don't mind this. I think it's new and innovative,
I don't
and
know.
the most important thing is it works.
You just lost credibility there. I don't know how that all
What?
fits
It
together,
works.
but
It runs on
you're
28,000
like
or 28 megawatts. That's cool. So,
you're like all this high tech stuff that you look through and see a whole alternate reality is stupid. But sign me up for the gigantic billboard shaped like a sphere. That's
yes.
awesome. All right.
I'm a
That makes no
complicated
sense, but
man. What can I say?
that you are, John Bristowe. I think that's where we should end it today.
Agreed.
Thank you, folks, for joining us on another Eat Sleep Code. It's been fun. All right, folks. We'll catch you later. Bye bye.